Hi, Samuel Leeds here, and on this video I'm going to be giving you 3 things that you need to consider when buying a property to rent as serviced accommodation. So stay tuned. So right now we are in Lichfield city centre, which is close to where I live, and also we do have property in Lichfield as well. Now when you're looking to rent out a property for serviced accommodation purposes, there's 3 things that you need to consider and look for. Number 1 is that the property is in the right kind of area. There is a market for serviced accommodation in that area. Now it doesn't have to be on a beach, it doesn't have to be in a touristy area particularly. A city centre whereby there are jobs, there are people, will usually work for serviced accommodation. Lichfield works great. I think the best place in the UK is Edinburgh, followed by, I think it's Oxford and then Cambridge. So is there a demand for it? You can speak to companies like we always speak to a company called Avivo. They rent out our serviced accommodation. They put us on booking.com, they put us on Airbnb. They'll also give you an idea of the demand and of the market. We're luckily, I've got a really good relationship with Avivo, which is fantastic. So that's number 1, market. Number 2 is accessibility. The property needs to be in an area and a position, and the layout of the house needs to be in such a way whereby you can systemize it, whereby there's no HMO manager needed. Please do not be one of those people that have to go and let your guests in, because that is just completely ludicrous. You need a key safe outside the house, and that needs to be, like, I'll give you an example. I had loads of apartments and I was thinking they'd work so well as service accommodation, but the key safe couldn't be outside the property because it was in a public high street, and it would have just looked really out of place, and public people were walking past and it just wouldn't have worked. But one of my students actually told me, Leslie, who's amazing, said to me, Samuel, why don't you just rent a local car park and put the key safe in the car park? I was like, genius! That tip alone is making me thousands of pounds a month. But it's really important to make sure that you have accessibility into the property, which is systemized without a HMO manager or any kind of manager. Also that the rooms themselves are self-contained. So the second thing, once you've got the area, it needs to be the right kind of house with the right layout, with the right accessibility. And then thirdly, once you've got the right kind of property, you've got the right area, you need to make sure that when you're buying a serviced accommodation property, or even doing it as a rent-to-rent, that you have permission. So you need permission from the lease. If it's an apartment, you need to make sure that the leasehold does not forbid you from renting it out as serviced accommodation. If it does, there are sometimes things you can do to work around it. You can try and talk to the owner and persuade them and use, you know, your magic words. You can use short hold AST contracts. So what you can do is you can rent the property or the apartment to a company, and you own the company, and then the company does it as you know, a serviced accommodation. But I really would recommend, there are things you can do, you can be creative, but always put your cards on the table and make sure that what you're doing is legal and above board. You're also going to need permission from your mortgage company, your mortgage lender. If you're buying a property to rent out a serviced accommodation, you need to be upfront about that, because there is a different type of mortgage that you would need. So those are the 3 things that I would say consider if you are looking at buying a property to do a serviced accommodation. Hope that's helpful. See you next time. Thank you so much for watching. If you benefited from that video, please do share it with your family and friends. For more videos like it, you can watch right here. And if you'd like to spend 2 days with me at the Property Investors Crash Course, watch this video, see what happens. But whatever you do, don't forget to subscribe right here, and I'll see you next time.